Okay, all right. I think I'm live already, is it? Okay. Hmm. Okay. Yes, I think I'm in Facebook Live already. Okay. Hello, guys. So basically, today, what I'm going to be speaking about is consular immunity, particularly. I'll be doing a case study on Devyani Khobragade. So I don't know if you've heard about her, but I will be giving you more details about Devyani Khobragade. Anyways, but before that, let me just give you an introduction about consular immunity and the functions and you know the appointments of consular officials. So according to the book Satchow's Diplomatic Practice, 6th edition, edited by Sir Ivor Roberts, it says, and I quote, in modern practice, consuls are appointed by the government of a state to protect the practical, legal, and commercial interest of its own nationals in another state. And their contacts for this purpose with the host state are with regional, local, or police authorities rather than with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or other departments of central government. Unquote. Okay, so basically, what a consul official is that he or she is appointed by the sending state. And I think I've already discussed with you what is the sending state and the receiving state, by the way. So these are not exactly diplomats, but they are, consul officials, and they deal with trade, they deal with administrative, things of that nature. Okay, but and they are also appointed in the embassy as well. But usually, consul officials are appointed in the consular offices, right? Okay. All right. Okay. So basically, according to the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations, okay, uh, there's there's different definitions, but a consular post, okay, means a consulate general, consulate, vice consulate, or a consular agency. Okay. So, anyways, I don't want to get too much into details, but basically, what it is it's a case study that we will be sort of delving in, and I'm kind of bringing about this case, which was kind of spoken about in the Indian media before during 2013. But I'm actually bringing it up because I feel like it is kind of important for us, to actually look at the prosecutor's side as well, and the defendant. What are the charges, and what were some of the things that India and the United States, went into many problems. Okay, but before that, I just want to give you a little bit of history about what is a consular official and what are consuls. Okay, for those, I think this is my first time actually I'm speaking about consular, uh, offices, consular uh, people and all that stuff. I used to talk about diplomatic, right? But so basically, the institution of providing consular service is more ancient than history itself. Okay, so if you look back in the history, like there was a lot of trade, I would say, and if you think about trade, usually foreign officials used to go. It could be traders as well, okay, which are usually called honorary consuls, by the way. So usually what they do is they go on a consulate missions or diplomatic missions to the receiving state, and consuls, they play a very major role in developments of commercial, maritime, trade, judicial, and diplomatic establishments. So it's not necessarily consular work, but it could be diplomatic work as well, by the way. So these institutions have developed as a necessary means of doing international trade and travel. So, like I said about the ancient times, right? So during ancient times, there was a system, and that system was, the consular system during the Greek city states. Okay, so foreigners in Greece those days, were given the permission by the local government to choose, right, their representative as intermediaries between them and the local government. So this was during the 6th century BC, right? And even Greek settlers in Egypt were given much privileges. Okay, so like I said, consular officials or diplomatic officials usually come. They do have like privileges and immunities and different sorts of functions, which we will sort of touch into it a little bit. Okay. Okay, guys, just hang in there. Just want to see who's live here, by the way. Okay. Okay, we have a lot of waves in Instagram. Uh, Bisbon, Yim, okay, Yongshin, Esther, Jungti, Hotting, Sanctum, and okay, all right. Thank you guys for waving. I appreciate it. And if you have any comments, just feel free to leave leave it down below so that I can actually look at it and comment. We can debate and try to find some solutions. So with that said, right, we will be talking about Devyani Khobragade's case. So who was Devyani Khobragade? Okay, she sounds like Indian, right? And I think you're right. Okay, so basically, Devyani Khobragade, okay, was an Indian deputy consul, okay, at the Consulate General in New York, and she was prosecuted and put in prison when she was in New York by the United States Supreme Court for number one, visa fraud, and number two, uh, crimes against her domestic worker. Okay, so this all happened during the 12th of December 2013, right? So this is kind of not so long ago, to be honest. And I'm pretty sure, like people who have been, following with the news and all that, I'm pretty sure, like you must have seen it, by the way, in the news, NDTV, News X, and I'm pretty sure you must have read in the Hindu as well. So it was in different, different countries. It was, quite the story, I would say. So, anyways, the case we will be uh, sort of, going into it. So basically, she was not entitled to consular immunity, okay, in the receiving state because consuls have only limited jurisdiction, guys. So if you didn't know, usually diplomats have full privileges and immunities. So basically, privileges and immunities is the purpose of some of the benefits that diplomats or consulars have. So these are all the preambles, and it's all in the international law, books, particularly the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations and Diplomatic Relations per se. But anyways, uh, I'm just going to show you. This is sort of like a small booklet. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can see it. Okay, you can see the logo here. Okay, so this is the Vienna Convention of Consular Relations, 1963. Uh, yeah, so this is kind of like the book for a diplomat or a consular to go about with their functions or privileges and immunities or whatsoever. It's like a handbook. Okay, so like I said, she didn't have full diplomatic immunity because she was still a consular official. Okay, so yeah. So like I said, going back to this case, we'll try to like sort of investigate um, and sort of show some justifications based on international law, based on the Vienna Convention's law, United Charter, and probably a little bit of American law as well, the Supreme Court, and we'll try to see what the foreign affairs from India, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, external affairs per se, have to say about this as well. Okay, so on the 12th of December 2013, as I've mentioned, when she was, taken to prison and, she was indicted and all that stuff, the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, issued an arrest warrant for the 39-year-old Dr. Devyani Khobragade, okay, who was the deputy consul for political economic, social, and women affairs in the Consulate General of India in New York. Okay, so she was a wholesome, I would say. She was in charge of a lot of affairs per se. She was charged for visa fraud and making false statements. Okay, to pretty much she wanted to obtain her visa, or I mean a visa for her domestic worker. Okay, and this is the main gist of the case that we're actually delving in here. By the way, so what the case is all about is about um, fraudulent employment uh, agreements and something to do with trafficking. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you must have heard about a lot of diplomats who go about their businesses, but they do get into problems when they have like workers, and they take workers to their diplomatic missions and the embassy and their apartments, and they don't treat them well. So it is an issue of trafficking per se, particularly. You know, I don't know. I think the legal term would be modern day slavery, if I'm not mistaken, right? But anyways, that's the gist of it. Now, Sangeeta Richards, okay, she was the domestic helper for Dr. Devyani Khobragade, okay, who was the deputy consul general for for India, who was representing in New York, by the way. So approximately around 9:30 a.m. Okay, so this was in the morning. Okay, the State Department's Diplomatic Security Services came and arrested Khobragade outside her daughter's Manhattan school on West 97th Street in Manhattan. I'm not sure if it's 9:30 a.m. or p.m., but just let me know if I'm right or wrong about this. Okay, right. Okay, but anyways, she was released the same evening. Well, there's a reason for that. Uh, the U.S. attorney, by the way, the prosecutor, okay, for this case was Preet Bharara, okay. Attorney Preet Bharara, basically, he's an Indian American, and he cited a 21-page indictment about the charges filed against Khobragade, which points out that Khobragade had promised in her employment contract. By the way, employment contract. This is basically employment contract of Sangeeta Richards. Okay, she would pay her housekeeper Richards, Mrs. Richards, $9.75 per hour and work for 40 hours per week. Okay, so 9.75 is a little bit on the high side anyways, but let's see where we go here, okay? So she promised that she's going to pay that to, the visa officials and people who do the interview and that kind of stuff. So let's look at the case here. So Preet Bharara, who was, the lawyer, he said he cited a 21-page indictment. So what is the indictment here? The indictment here is the United States of America versus Devyani Khobragade, okay? It's a case number 14008. Okay, so this was in December 11, 2013. Okay, so according to the indictment, okay, basically I'll just give you a gist of it. I'm not going to read the whole, case here, word by word, but according to the indictment, Covergate, she executed a fraudulent employment agreement. So, by the way, guys, if you want to get a job and if you want to apply for a visa, you usually have an employment agreement or a contract agreement, right? That that you need in order for you to enter in a different country per se, and especially for this case, we're talking about, I think it was a hold on, what visa was it? Okay. A7, or let me guess. I want to make sure what kind of visa it was. Okay, so it's I think yeah. So her status as a domestic worker would be an A3 visa. Okay, so we have all different kind of visas if you want to go to America or Australia or whatever. But for America, if you're on a diplomatic mission and if you want to take servants or service staffs, I think service staff is different, but like workers or domestic helpers, it's that. Okay, so basically, Khobragade had entered into an agreement with the victim, which is Mrs. Richards, that compiled with U.S. Not compiled, so complied with the U.S. labor laws, including among other things a wage at the prevailing wage. Okay, prevailing rate. Sorry. So now, according to the court indictment, okay, guys. So I'm reading the document, which was come out, by the by the Supreme Court in paragraph 4. This is United States of America versus Devyani Khobragade. Okay, we're still here. It states that the agreement, okay, I quote, provided for the payment of a legally insufficient wage. So a total of, I think it was 30,000 rupees, approximately $573. So, according to the conversion rates based on the United States of Treasury, Department of Treasury, so I'm going to convert these rates based on 2000 September. Okay, so 573. So we're going to say uh, per month is 573 or 687.6 per year, 6,876 per year, regardless of the numbers of overtime hours. Okay, so basically, this is a little lower, on the lower side because Gate had deliberately deleted an important provision which acknowledges the employer's agreement to accept all U.S. local, state, and federal laws. So here's the problem here. I see a problem here because now what happened was Khobragade produced two documents. One was to show the embassy and the interview officers that she's going to pay the legal amount for Sangeeta Richards, okay, and that she was going to abide by the laws and all that kind of stuff. Now, here's the problem here because she produced the second document again, which was not true. Okay. By the way, we're still going on to this case here. We still haven't found, justice, justifiable answer per se. But let's just get into it again. So the second contract was a personal agreement. Okay, so these were all they have like there's a reason why these stuff are in the indictment papers because I think they have seen the papers too, and there's evidences for that. But let me just go ahead with that. So the second contract was a personal agreement made by Khobragade to pay Mrs. Richards approximately $3.31 per hour and was required to work more than 40 hours. Okay. The original contract provided for wages of 9.75 per hour contradicts, by the way. The amount of salary promised in the second contract was below the New York's legal minimum wage. So, by the way, during 2013, okay, so we're saying in New York, the legal, minimum wage was about $7.25 per hour. Okay, so which was way, way below. Okay, and this is like Indian rupees was 379 rupees per hour. Okay, during its time. Okay, let's go forward again. Under the 18 U.S. Code, Section 1546, so 1546, under the fraud and misuse of visas, permits, and other documents. Visa fraud crimes carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, guys. So I think if Devyani Khobragade was to plead guilty, she would have to, first of all, visa fraud, okay, which is 10 years in prison, okay. Now, there's another problem here because there was a false statement too, okay. So the false statement, the max under the false statement, section, the maximum sentence, okay, is 5 years. So we're talking about two crimes that has been done here by the Indian consul official. Number one, visa fraud and false statement. Okay, so this accounts for 15 years, 10 plus 5. Okay. Uh, And there is another monetary fine as well, which goes, which is part of the bond that you have to pay, if somebody bails. Okay, but anyways, so that's about $250,000 fine. That's a lot of money. Okay, but you know, I guess she was quite wealthy, and I guess she was very well off because, as per my research was concerned, Devyani Khobragade and her father were all part of the IFS, and I think it was 1999 batch or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think her family was part of this whole, IFS, people, officials, which is the Indian Foreign Services. For those who are not aware of Indian, foreign services. So according to Kugelman, okay, so Kugelman, uh, who is Kugelman? Okay, Kugelman, Michael Kugelman, he's an author, and he wrote this article, "Why is India so angry about the arrest of New York-based diplomat?" So this was published in the Diplomat. Okay, I think it's the magazine that we're talking about. So 2013. Okay, he points out that it was reported that she was released several hours after pleading not guilty, surrendering her passport, and paying $250,000 for bail. So I think she bailed out, and rightly, rightly done, I would say. So Devyani Khobragade's lawyer Daniel Arshak has something else to say as well. So I think he is the defendant, and Daniel Arshak was, he was an attorney as well, unlike Preet Bharara, okay, who was against Devyani. So Attorney Arshak refuted the allegations, okay, done by Preet Bharara, and went on to argue that Mrs. Richards, so we're talking about the domestic worker, was paid above the minimum wage, and that his client had made an agreement to the housekeeper that some portion of the money that she earned were sent back to the Sangeeta's husband, who was in India. So, I think they were sending through wire or, Western Union or something like that. But she was, sending money to her husband and her family. And, I think there's a lot of like interviews done that got cuffed up within the family affair of, Sangeeta Richards, which was, publicized in the news during 2013. I'm pretty sure some of you might remember. Okay, so basically, yes, attorney had to refute it and refute the allegations, saying that Devyani Khobragade, who is the Indian consul official, was innocent. Okay, uh, the rest of the money was given to her in the United States. Okay, so basically, she got the half of it. Okay, which was very less. Okay, according to the legal minimum wage for New York. Khobragade had claimed that she was paying her maid $4,500. Okay, so I think in pounds that'd be about 2,740 pounds per month, which the U.S. prosecutors, which per month, which the U.S. prosecutors and Mrs. Richard deny. Okay, obviously. So this, I'm just going to give you like one side of the story, and I'm going to give you the other side of the story. So we've heard the first side of the story, and there's another side of the story as well. So who do we believe, and what is, where is justice here? Okay, justice for Devyani Khobragade, who is a well-off diplomat, well-off consular official. By the way, I say carefully diplomat because, by the way, I will tell you why. Because she was also part of the United Nations, so I think I can, there might be some credibility to say that. But nevertheless, where is justice here, and what is the right justice? Okay, is it on the Indian side or is it on the United States side? So that is the big question here. Okay, so I've already spoken to the indictment by the United States, okay, versus some of the refutations done by India. So according to the Ministry of External Affairs, okay, MEA. So guys, if people who are doing IFS, or people who study the UPSC exams, and I'm pretty sure you must be knowing Ministry of External Affairs. I think United States of America is Department of Foreign Affairs, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, anyways, it reported that. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But anyways, according to the Ministry of External Affairs, it reported that Khobragade had earlier that year had an additional appointment as special advisor to the United Nations. So what does this mean? Okay, so claiming that she had a position in the United Nations as a as a special advisor to the United Nations, I think this gives like a kind of like a more credibility to her, because see, if you are a full-on diplomat in the United Nations, or per se of by the sending state, which is India, I think you have full diplomatic immunity. This is fully based on the international law and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Okay, so but the United States they say that Devyani Khobragade was not a diplomat, but she was only a consular official. Okay, and she didn't have full diplomatic immunity. She just had consular immunity. Okay, by the way. I just want to define, guys. I've been talking to you a little bit about diplomatic and consular immunity. Why I'm saying this, because this is part of it, but I just want to give you a definition, like a legal definition of what is, you know, you know, some of the privileges and immunities. Okay, so according to Article 4 of the Vienna Convention on the Consular Relations, the receiving state shall treat consular officials with due respect and shall take all appropriate steps to prevent any attack on their person, freedom, or dignity. Okay. Now this is the kicker here. This is very much in tune with whatever we're talking about. So Article 41, okay, of the Vienna Convention, it says personal inviolability of consular officials. Number one, consular officials shall not be liable to arrest or detention pending trial, except in the case of a grave crime and pursuant to a decision by the competent judicial authority. So it is clear, okay, that the consular official is liable from detention, and also from immunity from jurisdiction as well. But apparently, the New York Supreme Court had made an indictment upon her and put a case on her and put her in prison. By the way, so by the way, when she was in prison, I think she was there for a couple of hours only, and she was strip searched, not necessarily strip, but I think what strip search means is that yes, it is humiliating. Yes, I agree that. But they take off, their watches, their, shoes, belts, etc., and they kind of like do all this metal detectors. And I'm not sure exactly how it goes about, but yeah, that's how it is. And she complained about it. She was crying, and the diplomat. We're talking about her. So, and I think India got raised about it, by the way. And Indian crowds, I think they started like closing down the embassy. And Indian officials were like, from the Ministry of External Affairs were very like hard on with United States regarding this case. And I think even like American like embassy schools were all sort of like shut down, and I believe like even like American franchise companies were also like shut down too, like KFC and stuff like that, McDonald's. So it was a very big affair, I would say. Nonetheless, I just want to point out again here in Article 41. Okay, so there's no consular officials like Devyani Khobragade has this immunity. Okay, immunity from jurisdiction, immunity from many things. But there's a section here where it says except in the case of a grave crime. Okay, so why I say this grave crime is because I think it is important to know that to note that diplomats and consular officials should be aware of the legal proceedings and the legal affairs and the system in the sending state, because I think it is part of the requirement too to respect wherever they go, because they are being appointed by the receiving state anyways. But unlike honorary diplomats or honorary consuls, but that's the whole point. I think it's very important to respect that. But on the other side of the coin, I would also say that it is also important to respect the international law. Okay, if Devyani Khobragade claims that fine, she was a consular official, maybe she didn't get full diplomatic immunity, but she did have diplomatic immunity if she claims that she was part of this United Nations, uh, you know, representative for India. So if that claim is right, I think United States didn't have the rights to do that. So you can juggle with that, and maybe you can do more research. I did mine. So in conclusion, I just want to conclude here that Khobragade was unable to get away by not meeting her legal obligations. So the legal obligations is pretty much 15 years in prison, I think, and a chunk of money, basically. And I don't know 15 years or what, but yeah, I think you could like lower down the years of prison time, but whatever it is, I think she just left. Okay, without meeting any of her legal obligations. The only thing that she met was, I think, the monetary obligation was $250,000, which is part of the bond that they have to pay. Okay, and her servant, who was Sangeeta Richards, was able to obtain legal help from the U.S. authorities. Okay, so she had, lawyers and stuff, and nonprofit lawyers who were with the trafficking, organization, who helped her to sort of escape. Okay, and yes, the representative of India, Devyani Khobragade, was treated badly. Therefore, it had led to a very unpleasant repercussion on the relations between the United States and India. So that's the problem here. I think the problem here is sometimes you know, if the sending or the receiving state do not comply by certain, mutual understandings, then there's a lot of, problems that happens for, bilateral relations. And sometimes it could add to third state, which is multilateral relations that causes problems. If Khobragade decides to go back to the United States, right, the Indian representative, if she has to go to the United States, she will have to face charges, unfortunately, as a non-diplomat with no immunity. Okay, so anyways, like I said, I think consular, the whole subject of consular officials, it's one of the oldest traditions and one of the oldest legal system in the world. People don't realize that. They think diplomats are old, but I think consular officials, they did have a much more ancient system per se, because uh, a lot of authors actually point this out, in their books. But I think if you want to actually read about this, Satao is pretty good as well. Gore Booth is good, and what's her name? There's another one which is awesome. Yeah, Satchel, and who is this person here? Okay. Anyways, I will give you. I've already actually spoken about some of the things that was important to this case, and maybe next time I'll speak to you about different authors. But yeah, let me know. Comment down below if you think Devyani Khobragade was given harsh treatment and wasn't given justice, or was the American United States, what was it right? So who is right here, India or United States? And or you could also put it this way, domestic workers usually go under the section of trafficking. So is this a case of trafficking? Well, she was treated badly too, by the way. I think some of the things that what she said was she wasn't treated well. But nevertheless, that's the question here. All right. Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna leave it at here, and hopefully I'll see you in my next podcast. All right. Okay. Have a good one. Bye bye.